Hello, in this series of videos, we're going to go over how to use different tools within Photoshop to clean up our image. Say, for example, as we're looking around this image in Photoshop, there might be areas that we might want to clean up. As I'm scrolling through my image, there's areas that, for example, maybe I want to clean this up right here. Just looking around, I want to start off with doing simple image adjustments, image corrections, where we try to clean up little things here. But then later on go over more bigger areas that we might want to focus on. Say for example, as we're looking around, maybe I want to get rid of people or objects within my image. There's a water bottle right here. I want to clean that up. Maybe I want to get rid of this area right here. We're going to go over different tools on how we could further adjust our image. Now, before we do so, we need to go over a brief introduction of using brushes within Photoshop. What I'm going to do, I could still use this document here, but I'm just going to hide all my layers and I'm going to create a new empty layer. I'm going to click on this little button. I'm sorry. I'm going to click on this little button on the bottom right hand corner of my layer palette panel. And you can see that I have this layer 1. I'm just going to type in brushes right here so that as I'm working in Photoshop, I know what is in this layer. Now this layer is not going to be in my final image. I'm just using it as an example. What I want to point out that this icon right here is our brushes. If we click and hold down your mouse button over this brush, you'll notice that there's different tools. We're just going to make sure that we're using the brush tool, but the keyboard shortcut is B on your keyboard. Also, I want to make sure that we have the default colors, black and white. You could press this little icon right here, or you could press D on your keyboard. So I have black. Before we start using our brush, in the option bar, I'm going to click on this little button right here. There's a drop down menu. You are able to change the display of your brushes. Right now I'm in the general brush tab. I'm going to click on this little gear and I have the brush tip, brush stroke and name displayed. You could always click on these to reveal more or less information. So I have to have at least the name. I like having all three of these displayed so that I could see the name, I could see what the brush looks like, and I could also get some information. I could see what the stroke is. What I want to do right now, since I'm using the mouse and I'm not using a pressure sensitive stylus, I'm just going to click on hard round. You can see how hard round pressure size. This one has pressure sensitivity if you have a say for example a graphics or display tablet with a stylus. I'm just going to use hard round. And on hard round we have two options mainly for these brushes. One is size, how big the pixel your brush is going to be. As I move my cursor over my display, I'll see a circle. That is the size of my brush. We'll get to hardness in a moment, but right now on this empty layer, I'm going to click and drag on my mouse, and this is creating a brush stroke. And to change the brush size, you could always go right here where it says size, but of course I'm all about keyboard shortcuts. Instead, two keys on your keyboard to the right of the letter P. First we have the open square brackets, which I'm pressing right now, which is this key right here. And I'm using my mouse to write this. This will make a smaller brush size. Oh, excuse my my lettering here because I'm using the mouse. To the right of that is a closed square bracket. If we click on this key, this will create a larger brush size. So you could go ahead and try that out right now. I'm making a larger one. You can see how it's getting larger. Or the open square brackets, that makes it smaller. So these are two keyboard shortcuts for the brushes that I use a lot. What you also have is hardness. Right now, hardness is set to 100%. That relates to the edge. I'm going to move my display just up right here, just a bit. I'm just going to click and draw a stroke. If we look at the edge, I'm switching to my move tool just to use this as a pointer. If you look at this edge right here, it has what is considered a quote-unquote hard edge. If I go back to my brush, and this time I'm going to change the hardness, I could bring this all the way down to 0 using the same brush. Make sure that my layer is selected. And you can see as I click on the and draw a stroke, you can now see that, let me switch to my selection tool again, to my move tool. I could see that this right here has a soft edge. So the harder the edge, you can see how crisp it is. This one, there's a little bit more blending on that edge. So these are two different controls that we're going to be using for our brushes. And typically for the tools that we're going to be using to correct or to manipulate within Photoshop, we're just going to be using this basic brush, these either around, soft or hard. But I'm going to actually use it where it's around 50%. So if this was 100% hard, this is 0%. Over here, I need to make sure that my brush layer is selected. If I click and draw, you can see that it's a little bit of both. It's not super hard, it's not super soft, but the edges kind of give you a little bit of, what's the word? Diffuse. It slowly will blend in to the layers underneath. This is going to be important because we need this functionality for some of the tools that we're going to be covering in our next video. So this is part one. The next video we're going to be going over are different tools on how we could clean up our image.